moment of truth. And he makes it! On-time delivery guarantee on Shopee.
From Johnson's World's #1 baby care brand, nourish and protect baby skin with Johnson's Baby.
YouTube Vanced was born as a simple APK. No ads, no limits, and no subscription. An app made by users, for users. Vanced promised to bring back the YouTube we all loved, free, clean, and without interruptions. But its success became a threat to Google. It was hunted down, censored, and deleted. That's why today, you'll see the story of the YouTube that Google wanted to erase from history. More than a decade ago, YouTube was a free, simple, and almost perfect place. You opened the app, watched what you wanted, and left feeling satisfied. But over the years, that magic slowly disappeared. Ads started to multiply, restrictions increased, and the experience became exhausting and repetitive. It wasn't the same anymore. Now it felt like you were there not for fun, but just to escape boredom. Then Google offered its so-called solution, YouTube Red, known today as YouTube Premium. The idea was simple: pay to remove ads, play videos with the screen off, or download them. In theory, it sounded great. But in reality, people didn't like it. Millions of users felt like they were being charged for features that used to be free, or that should be free. So, YouTube Premium became a joke and a failed product. A group of anonymous developers decided to take on the challenge. They wanted to create an unofficial app that gave people what they truly wanted. No ads, a real dark mode, not just dark gray, downloads, advanced settings, and background play. All features blocked by the official app. It all started in 2017, when an anonymous developer posted a mod on Android forums called IYTBP, linked YouTube background playback. The goal was to give users back what YouTube had taken away: freedom. It was a modified version of the official app that allowed you to play videos in the background, with no ads, no restrictions, and no premium needed. What started as a small experiment quickly went viral across tech communities, Reddit, social media, and even YouTube itself. Soon after, the project got a new name, YouTube Vanced. The name had a double meaning: advanced, for its extra features, but also vanced, removing ad, the word for advertisement. It was a perfect play on words. Behind the idea were independent programmers like Master T, Zane Zam, and Razorman. They didn't do it for fame or money. They did it because they believed people deserved a better YouTube. And that's how one of the biggest tech rebellions of the modern era began. At first, YouTube Vanced was almost a secret, whispering only tech enthusiasts knew about it. But soon, that small community grew uncontrollably. Vanced became a legend in the Android world for everything it offered. It gave users exactly what they always wanted: a clean experience, no ads, no limits, and features that the official app didn't have. But the real game changer was its support for extensions. YouTube Vanced included Sponsor Block, which automatically skipped sponsored parts of videos, and Return YouTube Dislike, which brought back the dislike counter that Google had removed in 2021. It was an app made by users, for users, and it worked even on Huawei phones, which didn't have Google services. Vanced exploded in popularity because it was easy to use, looked professional, and was simple to install. Thousands of YouTube videos, blogs, and forums recommended it. The project left the tech niche and reached normal Android users everywhere. But its biggest boom came in 2020 with the arrival of Vanced Manager, a tool that made installation incredibly simple. Before, installing Vanced was a long and annoying process with many steps. With Manager, anyone could install it in just 3 clicks. Suddenly, millions of people around the world started using it. It wasn't a secret anymore, it was viral. During its golden years, Vanced faced constant challenges: Google blocks, app updates breaking the system, and the pressure of keeping users safe. Its allies were volunteer developers and loyal users who wanted digital freedom. Its enemy was Google's legal and technical army, protecting their money-making system of ads and subscriptions. The funny thing was, that Vanced worked so well that people forgot it was unofficial. It looked and felt just like the real YouTube. But what made it so special? How did it really work inside? Behind its simple design, Vanced was a real masterpiece of engineering. It wasn't a new app, but a modified version of the original YouTube client. The developers took apart the code, found the pieces that showed ads or blocked features, and deleted them. Then they recompiled the app and signed it so that Android would see it as official. The heart of Vanced was Micro G, a special software that mimicked Google Play services. It allowed users to log in with their YouTube account, save history, sync playlists, and access all normal features. Basically, it was a perfect disguise. Your phone thought it was running YouTube, but you were actually using a freedom version. Vanced also had a version for YouTube Music, called Music Vanced, which replaced both paid services completely. And the best part? It had no malware, no hidden ads, no tricks, and even had an official website. Of course, using it was not exactly legal, but keeping the app alive was not easy. Every time Google updated YouTube, the Vanced team had to fix code, patch bugs, and make sure everything still worked. It was a constant technical battle, a silent war against a huge corporation that didn't want to lose a single cent of ad revenue. Even so, Vanced survived for almost 4 years, resisting blocks, warnings, and threats. But, as always happens with things that aren't fully legal, the end was coming. The rise of Vanced brought both love and hate. For users, it was a symbol of freedom, but for Google, it was a direct violation of their property and a danger to their business model. Not only did it block ads, but it became incredibly popular. Legally, Vanced was in a risky place. Modifying and redistributing Google's code, one of the biggest companies in the world, is clearly against copyright law, even if it's free or made to help users. YouTube's terms of service also forbid modifying the app or using it in unauthorized ways. That meant that even normal users, without realizing it, were technically breaking the rules, and even some laws. But let's be honest, you probably don't care. Despite this, Google took a long time to act. For years, they only changed small parts of their code to make things harder for Vanced developers. But Vanced always came back. Each time Google tried to block it, users saw it as a moral victory, proof that people could beat the system, at least for a while. However, Google knew the financial damage was real. Vanced was blocking millions of ad views, the same issue Google faces today with ad blockers. And when something threatens Google's income, punishment always comes. The final battle came in March 2022, when Google sent a cease and desist letter to the Vanced team. That was the end. They had to close the site, delete download links, and stop development forever. The team knew they couldn't fight Google legally, so they shut everything down. The news hit the internet like a bomb. Reddit, Telegram, and Twitter filled with sadness, anger, and frustration. Thousands of users promised to never uninstall the app, and for a while, around 6 months, it kept working. But in 2023, Google made a back-end update that completely stopped video playback on old versions. Was that the end? Not really. Like any
And I know how bad this sounds, but
Remember when I told you that Google's sideloading changes were concerning? Well, it turns out I wasn't worried enough, and changes were concerning? Well, it turns out I wasn't worried enough, and
Your phone just tracked you walking to the bathroom. Not kidding. Google knows you went there, how long you stayed, and based on the time pattern,
worried enough, and now F-Droid is calling it a death sentence. Google is setting a requirement that only they can fulfill, forcing developers to go through Google and killing off F-Droid. Thousands of apps gone, countless of users stranded, developers making this choice of having to hand over their information to Google and pay Google, or just stop making apps. Now, for those who missed my initial video, starting in September of 2026, Google is now going to be requiring all Android app developers to register with them. And you might be going, well, isn't that how it works? No, this is also outside of the Play Store. This means your legal name, your address, your government ID, and app signing keys will now have to go through Google's new portal, which they already preview what this looks like. For context, right now, you can simply install something like F-Droid, or you can sideload an APK, so you can actually install any software you want on your device from any developer in the world. But under what they're proposing in October of 2025 is when Google will officially have early access testing begin for this. March 2026, all developers can register. September 2026, enforcement begins in select regions, is what it shows here, but then a global rollout is planned to continue through 2027. And of course, Google's justification is that it's all about security, all of the malware on these side-loaded apps, these open source apps, they're coming to get you. They actually cite 50 times more malware from internet side-loaded sources than from the Play Store. Their arguments can boil down to the fact that, 50 times more malware on Windows comes from the programs you download from your browser than from the Windows Play Store. It doesn't mean that much. I did say in my last video, this is about control, not just security. The timing is very suspicious. This is right after the Epic lawsuit, where Google is now being forced to allow alternative app stores. So they're now creating a policy that kills those alternatives before they can even compete. Now, my last video did talk about this, but I don't think I fully grasped the impact that this is going to have, and I even downplayed how this might impact F-Droid. I don't know what this means for F-Droid. Does this mean that F-Droid developers can still go ahead and be verified, and we can still install a third-party app store? We don't know yet. Well, now we know, because F-Droid has come forward, and they say for the past 15 years, F-Droid has provided a safe and secure haven for Android users around the world to find free and open source apps. There is nothing that is proprietary that you can get from the F-Droid store. It's completely free software. Now, I know it's a funny name if you've never heard of F-Droid, but I promise it's relevant regardless of who you are. To quickly just explain something about F-Droid, this is very important. The way it works is if you're a developer, you publish your open source code publicly on something like GitHub, and then the F-Droid team will review the code, check it for trackers, ads, privacy concerns, and they're pretty much checking to make sure you're installing safe software on your phone. Then they build the app from the source code and they sign it cryptographically. Why do developers publish to F-Droid instead of the Play Store? Well, it's because some hobbyists especially, but simply just privacy-respecting people like DuckDuckGo and Mozilla and many other important projects are people who don't want to actually be supporting Google, their fees, or reveal their identity. They might be building tools that Google wouldn't allow, like ad blockers or YouTube clients that many of you love out there. And ultimately, some people just believe in software freedom and basic privacy. We have an app on F-Droid called Plexus that lets you all submit ratings for common apps that you use on de-Googled operating systems so that people can more easily see what will and won't work when they switch over. So it makes it easy for you all to move to de-Googled operating system. We only publish this app on F-Droid for many of these reasons. We don't want to give Google our personal information just to distribute a free community tool that anyone can get from GitHub. It's pretty straightforward. If you want a weather app that doesn't sell your location to data brokers, F-Droid has it. If you want a calendar app that doesn't mine your schedule for ads, F-Droid has it. It's literally how your phone should probably work without big tech companies following you around everywhere you go. And you can still, to this day, right now, try out F-Droid for yourself if you don't believe me. It's right there on their site, fdroid.org. I'll leave it down below. With that important context out of the way, you're now going to understand why they have created this impossible choice for developers. And this is from the F-Droid blog. Essentially, if you're a developer, you now have to pay a registration fee and upload personally identifiable documents, including government IDs, and put simply, the F-Droid project can't require developers to register their apps through Google, but at the same time, they cannot take over the application identifiers for the open source apps they distribute. Put simply, Google is setting a requirement that only they can fulfill, forcing developers to go through Google and killing off F-Droid. Thousands of apps gone, countless of users stranded, developers making this choice of having to hand over their information to Google and pay Google, or just stop making apps. And what's even crazier is that F-Droid's users will be left adrift. This is from their blog, with no means to install or even update their existing installed applications. How many users is that? They don't know because they don't have to track users, and they don't have a registration process. You just download F-Droid and download apps. Now, I'm really glad that the F-Droid blog also tackles this security situation, because this is what Google is really leaning into. They say how sideloading software can be construed as carrying some inherent risk, but it is false to claim that centralized app stores are the only safe option. And they reference the fact how Google Play itself has multiple times hosted its own malicious applications. F-Droid, on the other hand, is only free and open source software. The code can be audited by anyone out there. The build process and the logs for those build processes are public, and they even have reproducible builds to ensure that the software is exactly what the source code is supposed to be. F-Droid is building transparency, not blindless trust in a corporation. And they also bring up a really good point, because I think Google does deserve props for some things they're doing in the security front. Google released something called Play Protect, which on any device, even on apps from F-Droid, this actively scans applications to see if they're doing things that are clearly malicious. Google already can disable malware that they find on your device. It's already a built-in feature, and it applies to all software regardless of where it comes from. So what is developer registration actually adding here? Is it security or control? You decide. Another amazing point they bring up is that this isn't just about one app store. We're targeting F-Droid because they did amazing coverage for this, and they would be highly impacted by this. But this is more about principle. They talk about how if you own a computer, you control what runs on your computer, even on a MacBook. Windows doesn't require developer registration. Mac OS doesn't require developer registration. You can use a Mac without an Apple account and still download software onto it, not from the App Store, but from your web browser. Linux doesn't require developer registration nor user registration. So really, why should your phone be different? People run these desktop operating systems, even in corporate high security environments, and guess what? They're not getting hacked 50 times extra because you can still download things from a browser. This to me is a very massive slippery slope. It starts with malware protection, and it leads to more control going into Google's court and more or less killing the Android open ecosystem that people have grown to love, which honestly at this point is the only thing separating Android from iOS. And this will develop to end with censorship and control. This already has happened. We see examples already with Apple and Google complying with Russian censorship, which is pulling VPNs from the App Store. We just saw this week how this can even become a political thing, where if whatever party's in power doesn't like a certain app, they will get it pulled from the App Store. And there's even websites now dedicated to this. I found this doing research in this video. It's called applecensorship.com, and it literally talks about different things that are blocked all around the world in different regions. And remember that on an iPhone, you can't really download apps off of the App Store. So if something's blocked, you just can't access it on an iPhone, and that's what Google's trying to create on Android. What these companies are doing is literally creating an environment where anyone can ban anything they want in any region, just because these companies are scared of losing a little bit of money and a little bit of control. But let's, again, as always, talk about what to do. This needs to be, I don't want you all to be apathetic. First, the easiest thing to do, install F-Droid, install any third-party app store. It doesn't matter what it is, but F-Droid's a great starting point. I'll leave a link down below. You have at least until September 2026, so get your favorite apps from there while you can. In fact, some apps you get from the Play Store might also be on F-Droid if they're open source. Now, if you're using a custom ROM, you're probably fine for now. This only affects Google Play Services devices. But here's the thing, even if you're safe currently on a custom ROM, this still impacts everyone you know, and eventually it will affect you too. Because when developers have to choose between registering with Google or giving up, a lot will just quit. Your favorite apps might just disappear because the developer refuses to KYC themselves through Google and they don't want to deal with the hassle. It's already hard enough being an open source developer, practically working for free and giving you all amazing software. But add this frustration to it and a lot might leave. So this does impact you. I hope I don't have to give such personal reasons for you guys to care about this and you see the bigger picture, but I gave a personal reason anyway. Spread awareness, share this video, talk and share this with other Android users and communities. This impacts millions of people who don't even know this is happening. Google's intention is to keep this very technical and low key, but you guys can really change the kind of way this is talked about publicly. And also donate to F-Droid. They're not running on a huge budget and you can really support them. Those are great starting points, but they're also a bit of workarounds. We also need to target things a little bit more directly. So contact representatives. They actually link some things in the F-Droid blog. So write to your elected officials, especially if you're in the EU. Right now, the Digital Markets Act is really big and you can lean into that pretty heavily. Tell them why software freedom matters. Europeans get this. They're talking about digital sovereignty and they don't want to be trapped in a bigger big tech world run by US tech companies. So especially in Europe, you have a lot of things to lean on there. On our website's resources, we also reference a lot of digital rights organizations that are doing some amazing work. So definitely check these people out as well. F-Droid does say to sign petitions when eventually they inevitably come up. And of course, you can just contact the DMA team directly, especially if you're in Europe. Please, please, please take some time to do this. Make it personal. Don't just do an AI-generated thing. Actually share a little bit about yourself and how you feel about this. I'll leave links to all of this in the description. And one quick thing I need to address from my last video before I get a bajillion comments about this again. Semantics. Yes, people, it is called sideloading. I agree that the term reinforces a concept that shouldn't need to exist. I get it. I know the point you guys are trying to make, but that is the reality of the situation. We need to call it what it is. It's currently called sideloading. Default app installation and behavior is through the Play Store. Otherwise, it's still called sideloading. F-Droid themselves calls it sideloading twice in their own article, and I don't think we should be schooling F-Droid on what we call this. Politicians are going to call this sideloading. A lot of them aren't super techie, so let's please keep it simple for them, and we'll come together and just be pissed off and unite against Google. Not over grammar, please. So get F-Droid installed as soon as possible, show them your support, donate to them if possible,